Gather around, Skull Brothers and Sisters. This is Minnesota Sports Talk, presenting Under the Lights with your hosts, Justin and Dave, next in 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, Vikings fans, and welcome to Under the Lights. I am Justin with Purple and Gold for Days. My compatriot Dave is with us here as well. And then we have a man with us tonight who needs absolutely no introduction whatsoever. He was the Vikings all-time leading rusher. He is Vikings royalty, and he is Ring of Honor number 44, Chuck Foreman, ladies and gentlemen. Chuck, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
We are good.
All right. I like that introduction.
Oh, yeah, he's been working on that one. I can tell. That was awesome. Good job, Justin.
Yeah,
that's a Hall of Fame intro right there, guys.
There you go.
Hey, if you don't mind, Chuck, I'm going to do some bragging on you just to let our listeners, not all of our listeners are me and Justin's age. We actually got a few in the teens and the 20s, so we just want to make sure they know who we're talking about. NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year in 1973. UPI NFC Offensive Player of the Year in 1976. 2-time first-time All-Pro. 3-time second-team All-Pro. 5-time Pro Bowler. NFL Reception Leader in 1975. Minnesota Vikings Ring of Honor. 50 Greatest Vikings. Minnesota Vikings 25th Anniversary Team and 40th Anniversary Team. And like Justin said, at one point, you are our all-time leading rusher. It's glad to we're glad to have you, and I'm going to let Justin ask you the first question.
Okay.
So, Mr. Foreman, I didn't get to see you play live, but I did get to see you on the field one time, and ironically, it was against the Buffalo Bills in 2000, which was the game right after Robert Smith had surpassed you, and you had passed the torch to him as he was coming out of the tunnel.
Right.
What kind of relationship do you have with, guys like Robert or any other current or former players?
Well, I guess it depends on, obviously we're always all cordial and there's a great deal of respect. Those guys came after me, but all good people. When you say what kind of relationship, I don't know what you would call it, but there's a great respect that we all have for one another, even though we didn't play. I played way before Robert and all the other guys that came after us, but it's a fraternity, so I can put it that way. So there's always great respect.
Now, Chuck, you're very active on social media, and I noticed that you post about the current games quite a bit. Any thoughts on how good this team we got right now can be?
I'm not going to. Let's put it like this. Here's how I want to answer that question. We've got a new coach. We've got a new system. We got new players. We got new administration. Everybody's coming together in the first 9 games, and we're in a good place. That's a good place to be. This time of year, especially when it comes to professional football, this is when you are supposed to get better each time out. So as far as I'm concerned, I think the Vikings are in a good place. No misunderstand me, but I'm not making any predictions about anything, or really I'm not, because it's the NFL. And any position you're in might be not for long. So I'm thinking we're in a good place. We continue to improve. They continue to protect the quarterback, give him the time that he needs to do the things that he does best. At the end of the year, they'll be in a good place. That's how I'm going to answer that.
Well, I've now erased 2 questions about your having you do predictions. So no worries, I won't go there. But since you were known as an all-around back, probably the pioneer of the all-around back, what are your thoughts? And I think you're uniquely qualified, obviously. What do you think of Dalvin Cook as a running back?
Obviously, I've been knowing about Dalvin for way before he was even in college. And when he was in high school, heck, even when he was in junior high school, people were talking to me. People I knew in Miami that were into football, high school, and stuff like that were talking about him. And of course, he went on to Florida State, but that's okay. But he's an exceptional back, no question about it. Uh, he's got a lot of run vision for sure. He's a how can I put it? He's a 3 down back. I guess you can say that. In other words, he's on the field all the time. He can pick up a blitz. He can catch a pass. He can do all the things you need to do to be an all-purpose back. And I think the only thing about it is I think the Vikings need to incorporate him more in their passing game, and then they can kind of like isolate him when he gets out there to use that ability to, because he's got great escapability. So
Right.
I don't think they take advantage of that much either. So I would try to get the ball to him out in space.
If I may ask you,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I was thinking most of our listeners would probably agree with you. And right now we're like in the bottom third in the league in rushing. And yeah, you're right. He has not got a lot of receptions, but go ahead, Justin.
I was going to say, to me, one thing that I would like to see incorporated, to your point, is more getting Dalvin the ball in the passing game, almost as a design pass directly to him. In other words, not just a check down where he's run 4 or 5 yards and has stopped movement and then catches the ball and runs, versus a lot of the things that you did where they would, have a quarterback take 2.5, 3 steps and just swing it at you and let you catch it on the run. Is that, do you think, a sign of the times, or do you think that's just play calling itself, or do you think that?
No, I guess different stats have different offensive schemes and the way they do things, and of course you got to have a strong running attack to have a great passing attack. As far as Dalvin goes and how they use him in the passing game, like I said before, the runner as receiver is a great thing if you got a guy with great escapability, which he has. So if you're asking me why the Vikings don't use him more in the passing game like I would, but you got to remember the difference between him and when I was playing, I was a wide receiver, cornerback, running back. When I was in college, I did it all. So when I was here, and the Vikings incorporated me in their passing attack a whole lot different than just not only coming out of the backfield, but getting in the slot, going outside, playing outside one-on-one. So it's a little different, but I think they can do some things to get him one-on-one with people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Now I have a question. I read somewhere that you were a Washington Redskins and Baltimore Colts fan growing up.
Right.
The fact that the Redskins just beat the Eagles on Monday night, how did you feel about that? Was that like your old team giving it to the Eagles, or tell us what you thought about that?
I had no feelings whatsoever about it. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with the Redskins and the Baltimore Colts at the time. That's what it was. And they were the Washington Redskins, not the Commanders.
Yeah, I apologize. I said Redskins, but hey, I think you knew them as the Redskins.
But yeah, they were known as the Redskins back in the day.
Yeah.
They always had some really good football teams, so the Baltimore Colts for that matter. But when they played the Eagles, of course, when I played, the Eagles were never that. They were a good team, but not anything great. So I never had any feeling one way or the other. So watching the Redskins and the Philadelphia Eagles play last night, it was more of a wanting to see Hurts play well and Heineke play well, because Heineke was here and I always thought that they should have kept him. So it was good to see those two young guys play and play well. So it was too bad somebody had to lose.
Yeah, Heineke played with heart and he helped his old team there. I think the last time I saw him play, he led us to a fourth quarter comeback in a playoff game, and then we released him.
Yeah.
Now, you probably had a chance to watch the Buffalo game the Vikings did. What are your feelings about Justin Jefferson, and what do you think about that catch he made, or the catches he made?
Well, I think Justin Jefferson is on his way to be, if he stays healthy, one of the best to play in the game itself, and not just here. So, he's got great work ethic. I think he has a passion for the game, and I think the only thing, um, as long as he stays grounded and stays committed, the sky's the limit. And I don't see any reason why he wouldn't do that. I think he's got big brothers, and and when you have big brothers, the younger ones generally know how to handle success. So I think he'll be just fine.
So now I want to talk about your playing career, but before I do, all you
Hmm.
listeners, make sure you check out chuckforeman44.com and use Skull15 at checkout for 15% off. Christmas is coming up. Go check it out, guys. A lot of good stuff there. Um, you let me I read somewhere that you were also a Baltimore Bullets fan,
Right,
and you gave I believe you may have picked up your spin move from Earl Monroe, who
right.
used the same move in the NBA. Do you
Hmm.
remember who coined the phrase or gave you the name Spin Doctor? Could you tell us how that happened?
I really don't know who gave me the name. One day I woke up after that did it, and then next thing you know, that was a nickname somebody gave me. But as you know, I grew up in Maryland, Baltimore, and Washington D.C., and basketball was the number one sport on the East Coast.
Oh
In
yeah.
case you didn't know, and so Earl the Pearl Monroe and
Oh wow.
Walt Frazier back in my day, I mean those guys were. I mean, everybody wanted to be like Earl the Pearl, bringing the ball up court spin, and he could play the game, and so that's where that came from. That spin move, and well, I know they used to play basketball, so it just so happened I tried it one time
And
on
track.
the. Excuse me.
Oh, sorry. And track you were all around athlete.
Right, ran track too, state champion in the hurdles and all that stuff. So
That explains some of the times that I saw you hurdling people in your highlight reel. So that
yeah,
seemed to work out pretty good.
that has something to do with it, but I wouldn't say it's the smartest thing to do. But sometimes you do things you know, and when people are chasing, you can do some crazy things. So
Speaking of highlight reels, if you guys after this show check out in the description, I put Chuck Foreman's highlight reels there for you to take a look at. Now you brought up Dalvin Cook,
mhm.
grew up in the area, your old stomping grounds,
Right.
and you knew all about him. Now I want to go back in the Wayback Machine when you're sitting in
Okay.
your dorm room in Miami. What were your thoughts when the Minnesota Vikings, up the northern team, the cold team, ended up drafting you?
Well, I was kind of shocked. In fact, I thought from what my representative I had at the time, they were talking about New Orleans, and thank God I didn't go there. But I'm from Maryland, so I knew a little bit about the cold. But being in Miami and Miami Beach, and going to the beach, running in the sand for 4 years or so, you can get acclimated to that weather. But coming up here, my first experience in 30 below zero weather outside, snow, playoff time, that was a little bit different. And so the adjustments to perform in this weather, whether if it was snowing, there was you had to learn how to run in the snow a little more flat footed. I mean, they didn't have gloves back in those days. You just kept your hands warm the best way you could. So now they got the gloves, by the way, and they have those gloves are kind of sticky.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you can, so as far as catching the ball back then, the concentration, I'm not saying they don't have it now, but I wish we would have had gloves back then. But no, it was all just pure D weather and, concentration and being able to play in that weather like that. And so we practiced the way we played. So Bud never let us have anything, you know, that would that you couldn't wear in the game. So no gloves.
I
Right.
was going to ask you, could you even wear sleeves? Could you even wear sleeves?
Yeah, we had sleeves that go down 3/4,
Yep.
to keep your heart. But I'm just telling you, in hindsight, I'm like, that didn't make sense. But
Yeah.
but when we played teams back in the day, we'd play against, usually end up with the Rams. When they had to come up here in the cold weather, they couldn't handle it, but we could. So
Well, let me ask this one, Chuck.
Right.
When you consider the advantages that you had with the weather against teams like the Rams, like you just brought up, do you think that if a team like yours back in the day would be playing indoors at a US Bank Stadium on that track, that your speed advantages might have overcompensated or been enough to overcompensate what you had from a cold weather standpoint? What do you think? Do you think that would have outdone it?
No, I think no doubt about it that a team that plays in the cold weather like Buffalo in playoff time, they always got the advantage, no question about it. As far as playing indoors, probably been more comfortable, no doubt about it. But
Right.
when you took the Vikings are no longer a cold weather team, by the way. They
No.
are an indoor team, so all the advantage we had that came with the weather, those are out the door now. So everybody's on an equal field when they come here in the winter. If we're lucky to get in the playoffs, there's no advantage other than maybe the noise in the stadium might be something that's different because it's indoor. But all those things and all that we had when I played, the advantages, the weather was your friend, no question about it, and that's gone. So you got the Chicago Bears and the Packers. They're left, and Buffalo. Those are cold weather teams.
Dave posed the question. Can you confirm, is that correct that he wouldn't even let you guys have heaters?
No, not at all.
He famously came out in that playoff game at where the Gophers play against the Seattle Seahawks, and came out with short sleeves and like 25 below, and he was in his 90s. So it was like, man, the guy wanted to show even today that he's that tough.
Yeah, I was there when he did that, but I wasn't walking out there with sleeves like that. Sure.
I was sitting in Florida, so I was nice and cozy myself.
Yeah, but like I said, it's different. Playing, those guys playing outside for them a year or two. It was an adjustment for them. But I don't understand not having heaters. So I never will understand that.
Now you brought up playing multiple sports, multiple positions in high school. I think you also did that in college. You kind of convinced your coach to believe that you were the running back and not any other position, and that's how you're going to get to the NFL. We lost.
It didn't go that way.
Oh, it didn't?
No, not at all.
Well, tell me about that and what the Vikings saw in you to put you out there as their feature back at your rookie year.
Okay, here's how it went. When I was at the University of Miami, I came there as a defensive tackle tight end.
Wow.
I was state champion in the hurdles. So they had this guy come in from Ohio, name was Bruce Bishop. He was the fastest guy on the team. Okay, we had 40 times. So the first thing I did was to go out there and see if he was that fast, and I actually beat him. So
awesome.
I beat him, and then the next thing you know, coach came to me and said, "Hey, you ever played running back?" I said, "No." He said, "Let's try it." So I broke all the freshman records down there as a running back. Then my sophomore year, they came and they wanted to try me at running back and corner. I played both ways. My junior year, I played running back and wide receiver, and then my senior year, I played wide receiver, running back. But when I went to all the All-Star games, I played running back, and I was MVP in every one of them.
Awesome.
So
I think with this video that we're shooting right now, we can now go update Wikipedia because they had it wrong.
They did.
I appreciate you telling us that story, Chuck. When you were in camp with the Vikings,
right,
they were like, "You're the guy you from the start," or did you have to earn your spot?
Yeah, they didn't give you anything. Now, I mean, don't misunderstand me. I got here, I had to work for it, but I had no doubt about what I could do when I got there. But it was a very much a veteran team. Most of those guys were already in the league 8, 9, 10 years when I got here, the nucleus of it, and they had great leadership, and because Bud was a good coach, and so it was. I ended up in a great place, and so that's how I won 2 MVPs here. Because I had like a great offensive line, Ed White and all those guys. So it was 75 my first MVP season, and then my second one was in 76. Those were 2 of my most productive years. And so what can I say? It was a great experience.
Now you brought up the 1975 team, and one of the
Right.
I told you earlier, one of the reasons I wanted you on is because we are going to play the Cowboys, and that was a special team. Now our viewers, a lot of our viewers can remember 1998 and 2009, thinking we had the best team in the league, we were dominant. I
Right.
feel like that was the 75 team. Where do you feel like that team fits in the greatest teams in Vikings history?
I think that was the greatest team in Vikings history. Unfortunately, we lost to Dallas on a fluke play, and Drew Pearson pushed Nate. He caught the ball, went in the end zone. The next thing you know, Dallas is America's team. That's how it went. And so still now people keep talking about the Cowboys, but I have my own feelings about that. So but they're coming, and then it's again, we're 8-1. They've lost 2 games or 3. I don't know what it is, but they're supposed to be, the winner of. They're supposed to be. They're picked to win. We'll see about that.
Yeah, we're not getting much respect every week. Sorry, we got some feedback. Every week it seems like we're not favored, but we're getting kind of used to that. Not many pundits are giving us a lot of love.
Well, we don't need that anyway. Just go
Yeah.
play the game. Don't make any predictions. That's where I'm at, and let them go out there and do what they do. Then at the end of the year, we'll see where we're going, and then it's a whole different season in playoff time.
I think 100% of our listeners agree with you, Chuck, and we agree with you too. Sometimes us on the air we make our predictions and just for fun of it, but deep down we think exactly what you're saying right there.
Yeah.
Now that game you brought it off. It is known to Vikings as the Pearson push-off, not the Hail Mary. But did you know at the time or after the game that they would have coined the phrase Hail Mary based on the game against the Cowboys?
No, I never even thought about that. I mean, we were too. I know personally, I was a little too upset to be worrying about what they were going to call that play. I was like, we just got screwed. That's what I was thinking. And so, yeah,
and we all agree with you. I know.
Right.
Wholeheartedly.
Now, earlier in the year, the last game of the season, I believe you were playing the Buffalo Bills. So you're tied in kind of with the Buffalo Bills, and you got hit. You had scored 3 touchdowns. You got hit in the eye from a fan with a snowball.
Right.
You go on to score 1 more touchdown, and you have tied Gale Sayers for the most rushing or the most combined touchdowns in NFL history.
Right.
And Bud Grant sits you for the 4th quarter. We're blowing out Buffalo, and it just so happens O.J. Simpson goes and gets a long touchdown reception and scores the 23rd touchdown to get the record. I want to know what that conversation was like. Was it mutually agreed upon? Was it a hey, I need to save you for the playoffs? What kind of conversation was that?
You guys are way out of. You got to remember, back in those days, the coach, his decision was final. You didn't get to go in there and argue it, or were they thinking about? Oh, he's 6 yards away from winning the rushing, scoring, and receiving title. I don't think that was. He sat me down, and I'm like, I wasn't aware of where I was with all that stuff. I really didn't care. But at the end of the game, and then next thing you know, you lose your rushing title by 6 yards to a guy by the name of Jim Otis, and then you got all the touchdown records, you got all the receiving records, and you lose out by 6 yards. So
to give an idea to the listeners, that year in 14 games, not 16, not 17, 14 games. So Foreman had 1,070 rushing. He had 73 receptions for 691 yards and was all pro. And the other guy in the AFC was OJ Simpson. That's how great this man was at running back. And I think our new listeners will get to see in the highlight reel in the description below this video how great this guy was. And I appreciate you coming on to tell us your story.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Believe me, thank you. Even though I was navigating the snow to get here, but
yeah, this guy went through a snowstorm to get to us. He's sliding around. It was great. Now let's move. I guess I want to have a question. This is the first time I've ever talked to a Viking great. So, growing up, I was a toddler when you were playing, but I knew of 4 famous people. That was Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Chuck Foreman, and Fran Tarkington. I knew who those 4 people were. I just would like to, for our listeners, you played with Fran Tarkington.
Right.
What could you tell us of him as far as him being a player and where he stands in the record books or the annals of the NFL?
Okay, well, I got to tell you, Fran was way beyond his time. He was the first scrambler guy, quarterback that moved around. Back in those days, even before me, they were like supposed to be stationed, drop back passes. They looked, they didn't do much moving around or anything like that. Fran was the guy that changed all that, and his first coach here, I think, who was the first coach here? His name's right, but anyway, he didn't like the fact that Fran was a scrambler. He traded him off to New York. Fran went on to break more records up than Norm Van Brocklin. And then, Fran changed the way that position's played. He didn't have the strongest arm, but he was consistent and smart and one of the best ever play.
I'm going to ask a question from one of the listeners. He said, this is East Coast Gridiron. He says you were Dalvin before Dalvin. Who was your favorite running back of your era beside yourself?
Of my era? Yeah. I don't know. I really never gave that much thought. There was a whole bunch of there was Terry Metcalf, Greg Pruitt, Otis Armstrong, OJ, obviously. You can go on and on and on, I guess. There's a lot of great players.
One of the thing I want to talk about next is give you an opportunity to talk about what's going on with you right now, any business related or any events or anything you want to let the listeners know about that you're maybe appearing at or a part of.
Well, I'm going to be going to Chicago this weekend for a show down there, but they can tune in to go to chuckforeman44.com. You can find out what we're doing, what I'm doing, what's available, what we can do. We can do all kinds of different things. So, you want to give us a call, anything. It's an exciting time for me to be able to get out there. And, we've gone to like Viking fan clubs all over. So, they can get a hold of us and, we can come visit you there and have a get together wherever you are. So anything's possible. And we got all kinds of memorabilia there. And, it's been a lot of fun. Ben Tice has done a great job with it.
Yeah, you have been, as far as I can remember, a great ambassador for the Minnesota Vikings. I actually personally got to meet you in like when I was 19 or 20 at one of your autograph signings. You were a pleasure to meet. You were gracious. Everybody I talked to tells me their story about you. When I put out this video, I got a lot of replies and they appreciate that. And in fact, I got your events link in the description below. I got all your links in the description below. So guys, check it out after the show. Now I just got a few questions left, and it's about the rest of the season. People had noticed early on that Kevin O'Connell had a striking resemblance to Bud Grant as a youngster. Are there any similarities to Bud Grant, and is there anything that makes Kevin O'Connell stand out to you?
Well, let's put it this way. Bud's Bud, Kevin's Kevin. There's nothing about them that's the same. People say they look like, they might be. Bud was tall. He is tall, but how can I put this? It's a different game, a different way of approaching the game, a different way of coaching people now, the rule changes and all that. I think the analytics part of it, the way they approach the game, the younger coaches now are, you got to coach these guys differently now. Number one, you can't tell a guy that's making $90 million you don't like the way he cuts his hair because it's all guaranteed. Or you can't. There's this different way. When you have your routine guidelines or whatever you want to call. I mean that's fine, but there's a certain way you could coach back then.
Right.
It just ain't gonna work now. You hear what I'm saying? So I don't know that the coaches of that era, especially when you have a free agency and you always your roster is constantly changing, and you got to try to keep a good nucleus there. You got to try to keep the right people with the right mentality, right commitment, and all that. That's changing every year. So you got to be able to make those adjustments. And so that's free agency. When I was here, there was no free agency. You knew who was going to be on the team, and it wasn't always about talent. It was like if they liked you, and if you told the line the way you're supposed to, you made the team. Now, and don't misunderstand me, I had a great time and everything. So in that era, there was not the freedom to come and go as you please because there was no, like I said, there was no free agency. You had to, the team was selected by the coach, so you didn't have like the ability to say, "Oh, I don't like it here. I'm going to move to someplace else." Like for instance, me, if I wanted to move to, I heard this rumor that the Los Angeles Rams was trying to trade for me, and then Mike or whoever it was at the time, I think it was Mike Lynn, he wanted 3 number ones, 3 number twos, and 3 threes. Well, as good as I was, I'm telling you right now, there ain't a player in the NFL I'd trade that much for. I don't care who they are.
Definitely not Herschel Walker. That sounds like the Herschel Walker trade.
Well, that was I gotta say that's the worst trade in the NFL history, from my perspective. Yeah. He was a great, great college player, but there was nothing special about him in the pros.
And he was certainly past his prime, that's for sure.
My best friend, who unfortunately passed away several years ago, was a Dallas Cowboy fan. And every once in a while, I'll be on the phone. I'll say, "Oh man, that something happened. That sucked." Or this, I had a bad, something went wrong or something went bad. And he says, "Was it really that bad? Was it as bad as the Herschel Walker trade?" So he brought that up to me every single time. My best friend was a Cowboys fan, so
there's no doubt that was the worst trade in Viking history. No doubt in my mind.
What's even a close second is what I would.
I don't even know if there's a close second.
Thank you.
Well, we might find out on this Russell Wilson trade, but then there is no close second right now. Well, hey, we are playing the Cowboys, and you said that we are behind, and you don't make predictions,
right?
And why should we? But what do you feel how we match up, let's say, against the Cowboys? What do you think we got to do to pull out a victory on that game?
First of all, in my opinion, when the games are always won up front. Your defensive line's got to be aggressive. They've got to do what they got to. They got to put the pressure on the quarterback. The offensive line has got to contain and do the things that they do to give your quarterback and your running backs time to do what they got to do. So that's where it all starts. And then when that happens, and then you can see the Justin Jeffersons, the Dalvin Cooks, and Zeke Elliott and people like that, whoever's going to be playing, do what they do best. But it's the consistency of the play is what the team consistency, whether it's the offense, defense, special teams, the lack of who makes the fewest mistakes. The game ain't, it ain't rocket science, man. You guys know that. It's like who comes and who can concentrate and who can do the best. You look at New England; they won what 6 or 7 championships. And tell me, besides Tom Brady and a couple of Gronk, who else you knew on that offense? I don't know.
Nope.
Julian
Edelman once in a while.
Yeah, maybe him. Well, let's say 3.
Yeah,
Wes
so
Welker.
Well, who's the rest of them? You didn't even know who the rest of them were.
Right.
They didn't win it with Randy Moss, unfortunately.
Right. But you know what they did? They played 60 minutes, the best of the best football they could play individually on a consistent level. That's how they won championship. And you think about that.
Now, one last question.
Okay.
Before we go, Chuck, I appreciate you coming on and giving us all this time. You're really, I can tell you're into football. And you said it's not rocket science, but hey, growing up on my football team, I only had to memorize 16 plays. So I give you guys a lot of credit for having to memorize that playbook, and you played both ways. So that's pretty impressive.
Well, like I said, that's both ways in college and high. But what I'm saying to you is like, yeah, there's a playbook, and you got different formations, and you might run a specific play from different formations. Like, there's all kinds of. They've changed all this. Sometimes I listen to the guys and the way they call and the way even the sportscasters, like, I heard a guy say the other day, well, there's a 21. I'm like, what the heck's a 21? And so, I'm like, what is that? And then I had to figure out what that was, but it was the same thing that I might call like a strong formation. But you see, so it's like terminology and things like that. It's changed, and the way the verbiage is different, but it's still the same. You got to execute.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you eat and breathe it, it might become like back of your hand. The question I was getting to is, you really know the sport. What's another team in the NFC out there that you really like? Like, you think they got it together? That would probably give us the biggest trouble.
I like Philadelphia. Heck, I even like Washington Commanders. They got a great defensive front four.
Impressive, yeah.
Those are teams that I think towards the end of the year they're going to be better. I think they'll be very competitive, and the Vikings are going to have to maintain their consistency to and play well for 60 minutes like they've been doing all year.
I would also throw San Francisco into that mix.
Oh yeah, but of course San Francisco.
You like the interior lines, so yeah, you probably would.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I missed out on it because I like Devo and I like McCaffrey and all the things that they're doing. And Jimmy Garoppolo, they wouldn't be where they are now if he wasn't playing. The other guy wasn't ready yet.
They kind of got that old school. Yeah, I agreed. That from North Dakota State and the Summer League. Yeah, I only started for 1 year, so it was.
So he's not ready yet.
Jimmy Garoppolo is probably the best backup quarterback in the league, right?
Let's put it like
considering that's how it started.
The guy is a winner, and he's been to a Super Bowl, and he even had him in the championship game. So what can you say? I don't know who was deciding to get rid of him, but that was not a smart thing. He's doing well.
Well, Mr. I appreciate you. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask Mr. Foreman if he had time for one question from an in-studio guest, or if he needs to go.
Sure, you can do that.
All right, I'm going to bring Jamie on and then here.
Okay.
Jamie, thanks for waiting. Sorry about that. How are you?
No worries.
Okay.
How's it going, Chuck? This podcast has been great, by the way.
All right, good.
So I guess one question is, you mentioned that you like that the 1975 Vikings, when you played, obviously, was you think was the best team ever.
Right.
I was born in 1992, so 1998 was my first team.
Right.
And then 2009 Vikes, 2017, and then this year 8-1, huge. What of those teams is your favorite team?
Well,
or you think's the best team?
I really can't speak to that. I mean, they've had some good runs when 98. You said I remember that because that was like the closest, and then we had New Orleans down in New Orleans, and we gave the ball up 5 times on the ground. I guess I don't know. As far as those teams go, I mean, they could have, but they didn't get to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So I don't know. You'll have to make that choice on your own. The only thing I know is the greatest teams that the Vikings ever had was when we were playing.
I know I missed out on that.
Yeah, you missed it. You can go in back there and go to YouTube, because I went on YouTube and I said you can watch the whole game, the whole season.
I've dug into it. It's legends for me, man. I'm still waiting for. I just want to see a Super Bowl appearance at this point, but
maybe in your time, maybe they will. In my
this
time,
year, hopefully.
we got there, but we didn't win it.
We're finishing games well this year, so I'm feeling confident. That's good. We're winning these games that are close, so I'm excited about that.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Thanks for having me on,
stay
guys.
on. Tell us your channel so the listeners can.
We're from the GG Sports Podcasts. Me and Casey. I might as well just mention this too. Us and Dave, we are creating a new show every Wednesday called The Skull Experience, starting this Wednesday. Just out here hustling,
Well, Chuck, it's been enjoyable for sure, you guys. You guys got a great show going, and I certainly appreciate you having me on, and I hope it's not going to be the last time. So
you have an open invitation.
Well, I tell you what we can do. Okay, here's what it is. Let me see, this is like the 9th game. Let's see. After the 14th game, let's talk again.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I appreciate you going through the snowstorm for us.
Yeah, no problem.
And I want to get, we take up so much of your time. Justin, you got something before we leave?
I just wanted to say thank you, Chuck.
All right, Justin.
If I may be so bold, not to go to my father or my grandfather card, but I'm going to go there. And that's pretty much who my father talked about the most, other than you and Fran, I guess we're the two. He's just like, you would not believe. And as was a couple commenters mentioned earlier, you were the modern day dual threat back in the 70s before there was such a thing. So all of these dual threat backs, they all got a little something of Chuck Foreman in it. So thank you so much.
I appreciate that compliment. Thank you guys, all of you. I appreciate you having me. And like I said, game 14, after game 14, I expect to hear from you.
Sure, man. Let's close it out again, Mr. Foreman. This has been a great honor. I wish you the best and hope you'll be.
Thanks again, guys.
And like you said, I hope you grace our presence again.
Okay.
And everyone, this is Under the Lights, and have a great night. Skull Vikes.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.